Hi there, my name is Steve Gearhart, and as always, this is the Unagi Observer. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching the video. I appreciate it because this is a labor of love for me. So this week's anime review is going to be Needy Girl Overdose. Oh boy. All right, I don't know if you can hear that noise that's going on out there. If you can, I apologize for that. They just started doing that. Unfortunately, my filming schedule is kind of tight these days, so kind of have to deal with that, unfortunately. So my apologies. So let's get started on Needy Girl Overdose. This is not for the kids. The kids should not be watching it. No to the kiddos. In case I'm not clear, no child should be watching this anime. It will go right over their heads, and it is fairly adult themed. Yeah, so no kids. Don't let them watch this one, okay? So Needy Girl Overdose is the new anime on Crunchyroll. We watched this as part of our anime watching spring 2026 watch party, and we were very impressed with this. If you watched our or listen to our podcast, we have a discussion about it. So if you want to check that out, check out our podcast. It is Anime Archaeology. Link will be down below. So getting to Needy Girl Overdose. This is pretty impactful stuff. I'm just going to say right out at the outset, I enjoyed this very much. I am caught up to the current episode 4, and it is in my wheelhouse of odd things that I need to think about that is loaded with information. So let's get into get into the particulars here. So this was originally a video game released to the PS2 and various other platforms. I think you can get it on Steam as well. Let me just make sure of that. Yes, so Microsoft Windows, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. It was released in January of 2022 originally, and then it just kept getting released on different platforms since then. It is a visual novel game, and it is about you play a girl who is mentally ill, and has various problems, and has a very needy personality, and she decides that she wants to go online and be an online streamer and get 1 million subscribers in 30 days. So that is the game in a nutshell. So the anime is based on this game. This game has 27 different endings, and I believe the anime Needy Streamer Overdose is one of those 27 endings. By the way, I misspoke. The game is actually called Needy Streamer Overload. The anime is called Needy Streamer Overdose. So there you go. This is where it's based off of. Korean animation is involved with this, so they are involved with a bunch of other studios are involved with this as well. You can find this on Crunchyroll. It is up to 4 episodes. I believe there are a total of 13 in the first season if it goes longer than one season. I have a feeling this is a one and done kind of deal. So, real quick on the plot. The plot is, like I said, kind of based on the game, and we're looking at 3 different storylines that are consistently interconnecting with each other on various levels. And the first one is K Angel, or Oh My God Kaiwa Angel. She is the ultimate streamer right now in the anime. She has 10 million followers, and she is basically at the top of the food chain. And she is, maintaining her status, and that's what she's kind of trying to do. And then we kind of learn that she has some issues, much like in the video game. So a little bit more on that. The second storyline construct is the Karamazov group. So this is 3 streamers who were individual streamers, and they decided to band together, and they call themselves the Karamazov, as in the brothers Karamazov. And each member of the Karamazov streamer group has a personality from the book. Now, if it seems like there's going to be a lot of Easter eggs, pop culture Easter eggs, boy, is there. I will not get to, and even, I'm only going to scratch the top of the surface. But this is important because one of the characters in is the only male in the group is kind of coldly intellectual. Another one is very philosophical, but very self-absorbed and very gothly. And the leader of the group, Dempa, is has the kind of vibrant, chaotic energy vibe going on. In the brothers Karamazov, that's kind of how that's the nature of each of the brothers as well. The third storyline, which is the one that we're probably going to focus a lot on as the series goes on, is Cash, Kache. And she kind of represents a normal girl who is sort of starting to buy into the streaming culture. And it's kind of like her pathway of like being noticed in the world and kind of being standing out and being different. And this is kind of what she wants to do. And she kind of moves in that direction. So she's kind of like the innocent, if you will, of the storyline. So the story, as near as we can tell, is basically on the surface level is about K Angel staying on top, people coming, a group, the Karamazovs coming after her spot, and the possible corruption of a normal person entering into the streaming world. Such as it is. That is the plot, such as it is. So, what is interesting about this is that when we watched the first episode, we realized that in the first 2/3 of the episode, it was basically a commentary on the toxicity of streaming. It talks about how streamers have to present themselves not only online, but how they deal with it in life, and how they deal with criticism, how trolls are out there and dealing with those kinds of things. Talking about how obsessive people can be about online things, and particularly with idols, online idols, streamers, such as K Angel. And we're basically, that's just kind of what we get. And then we get into more along the lines of the idea of being online gives you value, which is a dangerous way to think. And by the end of the episode, we are introduced to the Karamazov. We're introduced to Cash as well, and we get a little bit more about K Angel and how pretty damaged she is mentally. She has, unfortunately, mental illness. She's mentally ill. And the next 3 episodes kind of go into that vein. But what we see in these episodes is a lot of information. A lot of information is thrown at us. The animation quality is pretty high tier. And everything is used. Every trick is used. Every color trick is used. Every symbol is used. This is something that you can sit down with one episode and just take 2 hours just to go through the episode, just to make sure you didn't miss anything. So some of the things that you'll get are things like, if you know your Clockwork Orange, particularly the movie, there's a bar that Cash works in. As a young adult, she's a hostess in a hostess bar, and so she has that kind of persona that's going on, and this is how she kind of touches into streaming, because girls in these hostess clubs are reviewed online, so you get the idea. But it is a Clockwork Orange bar, meaning that there are mannequins, there's things about milks, they're called milk, which is drunk in the movie, which is a kind of drug, and it sort of has an undertone of seediness, of like in the movie, and hidden violence. So you're dealing with that. You're also dealing with very bright colored pastels and high energy when you're looking at Kay Angel, and she's performing and doing all these things, spectacular things, and she's just doing the high energy streaming idol thing. And then the Karamazov group is a bunch of um, three. I don't even know how they're just so unlikable. They're just so full of themselves. But everyone is wearing makeup. Everyone is it takes very great care in their appearances and how they are portraying themselves to the world, particularly to the camera online. um, so the animation, like I said, is really really top notch. And a lot of care is taken into this. The budget is there. What is also interesting in what you see, and I'll get into more of like kind of the pulp culture things in a moment, is that it has a very Satoshi Kon feel to it, insofar that you're not sure when you're in reality and when you're online or when you're in somebody's head. So it is switching around in those moments, and it's hard to keep track. Now, I will say that when you start looking at the reality, like people living in the reality, when it switches to that, that's fairly obvious. What is not obvious is when you're going from someone's mental state to what's happening online, what's being seen online, or what is happening behind the scenes online. Yes, it's a lot. Um, and there's a lot of back and forth in those areas. One of the things that you'll see often is something will happen, a character will have a response to something, and suddenly the screen goes towards this like amorphic bubbles, and they change colors and they do these different things. It took me until 4 episodes to figure out that that is the endorphins of a person, of a particular person, how much pleasure they're getting out of it, how much stimulation they're getting out of it, or how little they're getting out of it. And so color is very important. So just pay attention to that. Another, now that we're going to get into kind of the symbology and things of that nature, and also pop culture Easter eggs that get thrown in there. There's a butterfly, or butterflies go through, and while the butterflies move through all the characters, it seems to be more so for Cash. And the reason for that is that Cash is the one that is actually changing the most, because she's wanting to go into the streaming world. So this is where we see the butterfly, and it's CGI. It's actually quite beautiful, and it's a symbol of metamorphosis. So that's what we're seeing. The others get it as well, but they're not as much. It's not happening as much. So a lot of the pop culture stuff in there is relevant to what's going on in the stories, in the plot, and what you're seeing, and they are important. The title of the first episode is called Killer Queen. So you have to know the rock group Queen. You have to know that the Killer Queen is a song and a lyric that Queen had done back in the 70s and early 80s. And there is also another Queen reference in there where Kay Angel, whose real name is Ami-chan, is sitting on a toilet. And boy, is there a metaphor there. I'm not even going to go into it because it's kind of funny. But she's looking at the haters, and the lyric that's going through her head is from Bohemian Rhapsody. And it's very interesting. I don't want to spoil it for you, but the particular line she is focusing on is quite telling about her mental state. You will see also things along the lines. The last episode that has aired, episode 4, is called London Calling. You're going to have to know what that means. That is the name of a very, very influential punk album made by, as some people call them, the only band that mattered, which is The Clash. They did Rock the Casbah. And London Calling is kind of their opus. It's a dual album. And London Calling is about society just falling apart, and just people buying into the wrong things and attaching themselves to the wrong things. There's a famous line in the song London Calling called Beatlemania is biting the dust. And it's a metaphor about how like Beatlemania really doesn't mean anything. Like if you're a fan of the Beatles and you listen to their songs, oh right, great. It doesn't really do anything for what's happening in society, and that's part of the downfall, as per the Clash. You're gonna have things like that. You're gonna have there's an amazing reference, and you have to know your literature. And this is a deep dive. The Galactic Traveling the Galactic Railroad. Let me make sure I get the title right because I really want to do it justice. Um, Ame-chan, when she is younger, and we'll get into that in a moment. She comes across a whole bunch of old videotapes and DVDs of anime and stuff and manga, and an old book called Night on the Galactic Railroad, which was written around 1927, but wasn't published until about 1934, and it is a reference that reference is a core concept of K Angel, the streamer on Idol. And let's talk about Ame-chan and K Angel. So she is the biggest kind of idol streamer person that you see, and you see her constantly, and she's always talking about stuff, and she has this wonderful costume, very bright pastels, and just full of energy. And I love my people, I love my audience, and you're my favorite otaku. I love you so much. You're such great otakus. I love you. And that's kind of how she presents herself. So of course she has this humongous fan base. And the anime actually starts with her celebrating 10 million followers at a concert. So we see this high energy thing going on, and then in the background we see Ame-chan, which is her real name, and we're beginning to see like the horrific home life and just really bad stuff happening. This is around episode 3 and episode 4 that we really see this. And leading up to that, in the first other two episodes, we see K Angel kind of coming out of whenever she's doing a video, or she does a concert, or she does a public appearance, or she does an interview. We get a little clip of her abusing medication, abusing alcohol, that kind of a thing, self-medicating basically. And we get little glimpses of that. So by episode 3 and 4, we see her backstory. And not a great childhood. Parents are divorcing. It's a messy situation. And both of them accuse the other of not even caring about Ame-chan, about their daughter. And she believes that and believes it to be true. And the father says, why don't I take you to our grandmother's place, to my mother's place, and you can stay there. It'll be quiet. You can not have to deal with this nonsense. Keep in mind, he's not a good guy, but at least he's trying, as unlike her mother. And once she's there, she finds all this, the trove of the anime, the all this stuff, and she's looking at it and ingesting it. She's like 8 or 9 years old, I think, at this point, or actually younger than that. And she's ingesting all this stuff, and this is where the book, Traveling in the Galactic Railroad, comes up. We see that, and we see her finding a magical girl anime. And her little young self, her poor little young self, heartbreaking, latches onto this. She is loving the idea that things will be okay, but I have to be bright and positive and help other people. The Galactic Railroad book that was written in the 20s, that was published in 1934, that is a huge theme of devoting oneself to being helpful to anyone that you come across. And that is the core theme of that book. So she buys into this, and she kind of wanders out into the wilds and in countryside, and little girl with a toy wand saying everything's going to be okay. I'm going to make everything okay, and it's freaking heartbreaking. She gets lost in the woods, as it is implied. The daughter is taken by the mother. The mother takes her back to Tokyo, and we discover that the mother is a whore. She just sleeps with guys, and that's how she makes money. And as Ame-chan is growing up in that particular environment, um, you know, she's going to school. She's always late, um, which is kind of a sign. Teachers who might be watching this will understand what I'm saying. Is a sign that something is not right happening at home, or something is happening where the child is not coming to school on time or doesn't come to the school, and there's probably an underlying bad reason for that. And instead of getting help, of course, mom is just a horrible person. The people at school kind of do the whole thing. The teachers and the guidance counselor kind of do the thing of from Akira, respect, respect, respect. You're being disrespectful. Respect, respect. And it's just not working. And she's getting bullied. And she discovers sexuality at a certain age, and she uses it as a weapon. And it is, yeah, this anime goes places. And so you're dealing with that. And that's just Ame-chan, by the way. And then we start getting glimpses of her starting to break down. She is constantly talking to a person called P and basically saying, I love you, P. I'm so glad you're with me. You're the only thing that's holding me together. And if I happen to slip and fall and disappear, just know that I love you. Da, 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 da. The Karamazov group is, I'm going to move away from Anjina because there's a lot to unpack there. The Karamazov group is really unlikable people. And the leader, Denpa, is this short, energetic, very angry person who wants to take over K Angel's spot and has enlisted the help of these two other streamers to do that. And we find out a couple things about Denpa and K Angel. I won't spoil it for you, but she is they're all very self-absorbed people. And Dimitri is just, this is her goal in life, and nothing's going to get in the way of it. So she's kind of annoying that way. We have the Ivan of the group, who is a pretty boy, and he is coldly intellectual, but he gives off the I'm too sexy for my shirt kind of vibe, and he acts that way. He acts as God's gift to everything, I think, and yeah, he's kind of a jerk. The last one is actually a friend of Cash. She is the Lothly, and she dropped out of high school and decided that she wanted to be more than a student. She hated that world and she just wants to be herself. So she starts dressing up in gothly gear and wandering around Tokyo, and people spot her until finally, it's enough support that she launches her own channel. All three of the Karamazovs have their own channel, but they also have this one channel that they have together. And so she has her fan base, and she's very cold and just very philosophical, and she has no problem talking about murdering people. And she has this sort of I'm okay if I die attitude, which can be seen as somewhat suicidal, which I'm going to get to in a moment. And these guys they have the least amount of storytelling, but they're just so unlikable, and they kind of represent kind of like the kind of like, if you see the red pill alpha males out there, channels, the guys are just, smoking the cigars and, talking about money and women and just being misogynist. It's not that, but that vibe of just like, I'm great. Don't you know that I'm great? Can't you see I'm great? Don't you want to be me? Right. So that's kind of what the Karamazovs are. And but we don't really have much of a backstory for Ivan, but we get the idea that the Gothly girl is a friend of Cash from high school or middle school, and who just went off to do her own thing. Cash is right now the I will put in heavy quotations heroine of the group. She is the person that we're kind of most vested in terms of like, please don't do that. Please choose another route, go another way. Don't, can choose something better for your life. And but her story is not one of abuse, is not one of well, no, that's I misspoke. That we'll get to that. But her early childhood, nothing happened, nothing bad happened. She was actually a good she was a average student in high school and in middle school and high school, but she eventually drops out because she doesn't want to do it anymore, and she sort of goes into the bar that has the Clockwork Orange motif, and she's kind of gets wrapped up in that world where she's getting basically looking at her Yelp reviews and things like that, and she hooks up with a guy, another pretty boy, but he's a band guy, so he plays guitar, he's a lead singer in a band, and he's kind of a moocher, and he also assaults Cash frequently, and forces himself on her, and she doesn't know how to stop it, and doesn't know how to, she lets it happen because she feels that she can't stop it. That gets better. That part of her life gets better. Again, don't want to spoil it, but she is kind of looking at her friend that is in the Karamazovs, the Gothly, and periodically is in contact with her, and she starts this slow turn towards going in direction of being a idol streamer, and it starts with her in the Clockwork Orange bar, where she has two-toned hair, one side's black, one side's white, and she is a hostess, like I said, and she's not really that concerned about what people think of her necessarily. She just wants to be seen, and the moocher boyfriend, who every now and again wants to put her in her place, makes her look at the reviews, and they're pretty nasty. They're pretty awful. And by the way, when they start talking about reviews in this show, and they start talking about trolls and things like that, that's almost 99% of what you see in this anime. So you don't get much of, hey, you're doing a great job kind of a thing. Actually, that's a main plot point for one particular episode that has to do with Denpa. But for Cash, she gets put down like that a lot. So by the end of episode 4, she makes a decision, and she goes through with that decision. I don't want to spoil that for you, because it's a kind of a you go, girl. And so that's kind of what we're going on in here. There's so many things going on. Oh, one of the things that you have to pay attention to, it's a little bit difficult for those of us who don't, because this is all subbed, subtitled, and there are actual placards where we get our subtitle across the screen at the top. There's whatever it is in Japanese, and then there's another English translation, but it's always slightly different than what the subtitles we get from Crunchyroll, and I think that's on purpose, and that's by design, and I think it's very much intentional. So you're going to have to pay attention to those, so you might be doing a lot of rewinding for those of you who are English speakers, but it's important to notice, unfortunately, so you're going to have to deal with that. But this is a very, very interesting show, and it talks about a lot of heavy topics. Unfortunately, being forced upon. Have to watch what I say because of YouTube censors. Toxicity of streaming, both in front of the camera and outside in the world. And drug use, alcohol use, abuse rather, emotional abuse, just so many heavy things going on, and that's why I say no to the kiddos. I can totally understand if somebody watches after the first episodes and goes, "No, I'm gonna nope out of this one." I totally get it. There's no judgment there because this is hard. This is a very hard anime to watch. It's very difficult. It touches on a lot of sensitive subjects. A very important one I'm gonna take a moment and be extremely serious about is that I believe that at the bottom of the screen on a couple episodes there is a lot of kanji, and I think, and I haven't translated it yet. Actually, why don't I just go ahead and just look this up? But it is not, the subtitles don't translate it, and at the bottom of the screen in E-Girl Overdose. AI is such a wonderful tool. Self-harm is a big deal in this one, and I think, okay, it doesn't really tell me, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I'm fairly certain of this, and if any of you can confirm this, please do let me know down below. But there's Japanese writing at the bottom, and I think it's the, hey, if you have thoughts of suicide, of harming yourself, please get help, call blah 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 blah. I think that's what the message is down below, and this is self-harm is a key subject here, and unaliving oneself is also an issue on this, and they're taking it very, very seriously. This is not being joked around with. This is not, they're presenting these issues in a serious manner. This isn't like, Shin-chan mouthing off. This is an actual, real grimdark thing that's going on. So, now that I've talked about this at length, should you watch this? Personally, I am enjoying this. I'm taking it for what it is. I like things like this. That is my personal opinion. But you have to like those kinds of things, or be open-minded enough to, not open-minded enough, that's a wrong term, being acceptable that you're watching something that is very grimdark and that has very dark undertones to it. And if you can deal with that, if that's something that you're willing to watch and use it to think about things, then yes, by all means, watch this show. Otherwise, don't. Not because it's bad. It's just, it's hard. It talks about hard subjects, and in a very hard way, and it's very uncomfortable. It's very difficult. But I think it's messages that need to be said. It's just that it is very tightly packaged in this one anime. So, buyer beware. I think it's good, but understand what you're getting into. It is dark, it is difficult, and it will give you pause, and it will make you think. And I feel that is what the whole point of this anime is about, to saying these particular issues as they relate to streaming. And really good. It's going to give you a lot to think about. All right, Needy Girl Overdose. There you go. Yeah, I needed to talk about that one. You can find it on Crunchyroll. Let me know what you think about it if you do happen to watch it. And even if you watch the first episode and you decide to nope out of it, and if you want to give a reason that isn't troll-like, please do so down below. Also, if anyone out there is watching it can confirm whether that message at the bottom that isn't translated is what I thought it was. If you could just confirm that would be awesome. Because I really do believe that that is what it is. And if it is, good on the creators and good on Crunchyroll for doing it. All right, you're being responsible citizens. Anyway, so yeah, give it a go if you dare. If you dare, I am enjoying it. So yeah, that's it. Going to be it for this week. Again, sorry for the ambient noise out there. If you're hearing it, and yeah, next week is. I have another one lined up. It's actually a movie, a live action movie, and I think I'm gonna push it back a week because it's just what I talked about today was so grimdark, and that thing is kind of grimdark as well. So I'm gonna try and find something happy for next week. Okay, so yeah, to that point, um, be well, be good to yourselves, and kind of throw my own little 2 cents out there that if things are going bad for you and things are kind of seeming hopeless, stick around. Don't hurt yourself. Don't unalive yourself because people do give a damn about you. There are those of us out there. I want to meet you in the world. So please don't. And that'll be my message for that. Other than that, as always, watch more anime.